Thanks for joining us yet for another edition of our Midwest Studies Group video series. This week topic, the onboarding of a new development director. Joining us is Luke, the development director of the Boys and Girls Club of the Mississippi Valley. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Chuck.
I wish there was a way. I need to get like an app or something that does like an applause sound or something. You're a big time guest with us today, and I don't have a big time applause, so I apologize.
No worries.
So now, if you could remind us, how long have you been at the Boys and Girls Club, and what nonprofit experience did you have before you started there?
Yeah, so not that long with the Boys and Girls Club. I started just at the end of this past April, so haven't hit my full year yet. But 2/3 of the way there. In my career, I've always really been in nonprofits. I started out on the program side, working in outdoor ed and summer camps, all the way back in 2006 now, and then made a shift back around 2013 into fund and resource development. Spent a few years with the March of Dimes. Was in Grand Rapids, Michigan at the time. So then also spent some time with a local homeless youth drop-in center that merged with another organization to become a larger youth homeless serving organization, which was its own sort of fun experience. And then, hit the phase of life where I felt the call to be a little closer to home and a little closer to family. So my dad's still up in Clinton, and I wanted to be in a place where I could get to see him a bit more regularly. And I also wanted to stay in sort of the world of fund development and in the world of working with youth who might not be getting all the resources and opportunities that they deserve. So the Boys and Girls Club for me was really a tremendous fit to find that opportunity in a place that is a safe space for all youth and offers world-class programs and great experiences, and continues to sort of be involved in that fight for equity for our youth, that every youth deserves opportunities to grow and thrive. And that brings us to today. Yeah.
It seems like obviously you found a great home. Sounds like you're really passionate about the work that you're doing, which is awesome. And so even though you've had previous nonprofit experience, what was the hardest thing about transitioning to a new nonprofit?
Yeah, I think, there's always that sense of like every culture is different. So, how is this office going to work? What's the dynamic between coworkers? How do we kind of operate and connect with each other? I think that's always a learning curve. When I think about when I started, actually, Tori, my boss, she was out of town for a week. So she was at a conference that week. So I was being sort of onboarded by my peers in many ways. We had an HR intern at the time who was helping me through the paperwork. Our operations director was giving me tours of the spaces, kind of orienting me to all the locations that we had here at the Boys and Girls Club of the Mississippi Valley. I got opportunity to sit down with our communications and special events person, a person I work really closely with, and start to talk about what our dynamic would be, to get an overview of the events that were upcoming. And that ended up being really critical because we were rolling right into our event season. We hosted 3 special events this year, all in a 5-month time frame between June and October. And so we jumped really hard into that sponsorship prospecting, as well as the maintenance and the relationship maintenance that goes into events as we approach and communicate all the details and things that are associated with that. So I would say the real positives in there for me were there was really concrete steps I could take, things that were bite-sized and manageable. Information was not just all dumped on me and said, here, Luke, you kind of figure out how to navigate this and go. It was provided to me in chunks where I could really understand, okay, here's my coworkers, here's the environment of this organization, here's sort of the fundraising task ahead of us. I think, for me, always the hardest part is jumping in and learning a new database. So personally, I love donor databases. I love everything they can do, but I'm a firm believer that the best donor database is the one you know how to use. So the first time you're jumping into a new world and trying to interpret and understand that data and read all these campaign codes and even process the way a recurring function works here versus another, that was definitely a growth period for me because it was quite a different tool than where my past experience was. And, it's like, then you start to also like learn little bits of information that maybe folks don't tell you outright when you start to see those donor numbers up. Then you start to like the part of my brain that kicks in and like sees the math problem of who's recurring, who's giving major gifts, how frequently those things are happening, what percentage of our donor base is lapsed versus active. You start to draw a picture of kind of, okay, I think this is what this community looks like. So I know I meandered a little bit all over from your question, but some real strengths and some real challenges that came from that onboarding step.
Well, and I do want to mention real quick, when you bring up these events that happen in a small period of time, I want to paint the right picture for folks that they understand that these aren't little rinky-dink fundraisers by any means. And
Yeah.
so if there's a Boys and Girls Club out there that has a golf tournament, for instance, that they're looking to grow, give a call to Luke, because I'm sure he's happy to help give some suggestions to you, because your golf tournament is one of the biggest golf tournaments in the area. It raises tons of money.
Yeah.
Like for instance, last year, what did you net or gross for the tournament?
Yeah, we netted just a little over 300,000 for the event, and our gross, I think we ended up just about 350, 360. So, we were really thrilled with the turnout.
Which
Yeah,
is
and an
absolutely
incredible event.
amazing.
An amazing event, and as great as the fundraising numbers are, it's the most fun you'll have at a golf outing. Like, I think there's a real commitment to a vision of what you experience on the course, from the activities to the music to just the ways that we approach, and that, I have to give credit to years and years of intentional building and commitment to this vision for that golf outing. So yes, to walk into to a 300,000 plus event, and to just kind of see it go and see the passion of the volunteers and the committed, businesses, Grupo, our presenting sponsor, put so much time and effort into making that a really stellar performance, a really stellar event for the community. So yeah, it was eye-opening for that to be 1 month in and at that event for sure.
Well, if you're another Boys and Girls Club, like I said, make sure to contact Luke, because I'm sure he'll be happy to give you a thought or two on how he could be helpful to you. So now you may have mentioned this already in some of the other points that you mentioned, but your executive director, she's an awesome person. Tori, you brought her up already. You have a great relationship with her. What sort of things did she do to help prepare you for your role?
Yeah. So, I think, obviously she's walked me through sort of our trainings and her vision for the organization. I think she had a real sense of what she was hoping to get out of this RD role. And in fact, from the transition, I think it was almost 6 months, and we'd had some contract, support from you guys, Chuck, helping us fill that in between time. But Tori had real intention with what she was hoping out of the role and in my position. And I think so often RD positions are looped in with marketing and asked to do a lot of these things. So one of the quick things she did was really kind of, make sure that my time was protected, to say, we're going to keep you really focused on prospecting new folks, on bringing new identities in, on helping us grow sort of the sponsorship base, and also taking the time to really build a plan for into next year. I think that would be the other piece that I think there was some grace from Tori in. And oftentimes we look at fund development, and whatever organization you're coming in, there's a mountain to climb, whether you're starting a capital campaign, whether you have, lost revenue, whether you're trying to figure out how you replace those PPP funds and payroll tax deductions. Every one of us is trying to climb a mountain. We're trying to achieve something throughout the course of the year. And I think what Tori did for me that was really great is she allowed me to kind of digest that information bit by bit. Like, she was reading me as, I was ready to receive a little more info, and then also laying out a very tangible guide. So here's where we're going to orient. Here's how we're connecting you to people. We're going to walk you through our budget. We're going to talk about our goals for this next year. And then she really empowered me to start to step in. And, like, I have fund development experience. So it was also to say, start to have that conversation of what do we need to do to get where we want to be? We're at point A, we want to be at point B. What are the steps we need to put in place? And so I think the next thing she did was really start to empower me to build that plan and start to make it my own, and became an advocate for me and the other members of our board. Which that I think would be the last point that I would probably touch on that she did to equip me, was she really intentionally connected me with board members, especially those of our executive committee and those on the, the RD communications committee that I serve as our staff lead on. Building those connections early on and helping me, both build the personal relationship, but also really clearly define what our tangible working relationships would be, have made, some of those asks that we put into our board in pretty significant ways for our year end, really manageable for someone who is still pretty new to the role.
So if you could turn back time when it comes to the onboarding process, what is one thing that you wish you knew then that you know now?
Yeah, I'm a math guy, so I think I would have really loved to have. I would have right from the get-go wanted to jump into that budget, into the details of the budget line. This is just a very much me. Like, I always want to know exactly what kind of challenge I'm taking on, how to climb it, and what kind of steps we need to put in place to get there. And so I think that for me came in like a few steps into the process. It was a little more like establish culture, get connected to people. We held off a little bit on those numbers goals. But that's something that I find that I'm very driven in.
Well, if you took everything that you've said previously and maybe things that you didn't say yet, if you could narrow everything down to one final tip that you would give to executive directors when it comes to onboarding a development director, what would that tip be?
Yeah, I would think just be clear, be detailed, and demonstrate that grace. Like that person's going to come along step by step by step, and there's a lot of chunks of information to learn. So lay those pieces out, make it clear and easy, and understand that as that person grows into the role, like that's really what you're going for, is that healthy beginning of a relationship.
Well, as we finish off here, maybe you could walk us through real quick. You're making a final push for end of the year match. Can you tell us how this match program works and how people can take part in it if they want to?
Yeah. So, and I mean, this touches base a little bit on that history of how we've accessed our board. Like one of the first commitments I made to them was I don't want to nickel and dime you guys throughout the year, but I do want to add leverage to what your commitment to this organization is. So we asked our board to commit funds, whatever was reasonable for them, that we could advertise as a challenge to the community, and that they would match 100% up to a certain dollar amount. And they really took that to heart, and together that group came up with both 100% participation and $15,000 that they're challenging the community to raise to help us continue to deliver these great programs. I'm excited to say that we're a little over 10,000. I think we were at 10,193. Not that I'm paying attention as of this morning towards our goal, but we want to make sure we accrue every dollar of that match. So very easy to donate. Our website, bgcmv.org. If anybody's looking to support their local boys and girls clubs in the Quad City area, your donations will be matched, at least the next $5,000 or so, up and through December 31st.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, Luke, thanks so much for joining us today. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Chuck.